week one is giving us straight up heavyweight fights. We've got Texas and Ohio State, Clemson and LSU, Notre Dame and Miami. Those are playoff caliber matchups right out the gate. Welcome back to the Devy Dojo. I'm the sensei, and here with my guy, as always, Chris, the Shifu. Look, if you've been rocking with us, make sure to hit subscribe on YouTube or be sure to follow on your favorite podcast app. It helps us grow and it helps keep you locked in for every session. Look, tonight, I'm so excited. You can see it all over my face. We're breaking down the AP top 10, the storylines, the Devy talent, and the week one games that are going to set the tone for the entire season. So let's get into it. Without further ado, Shifu, I kick it to you.
Absolutely, man. There's some great games on the lineup this week, and we're coming fresh off week 0, watching a little bit of Farmageddon over in Ireland with a little bit of sloppy play from really both QBs. But it was a fun game to start the season, wet the beak a little bit, and looking forward now after diving in to all of these beautiful week 1 matchups. There's some games that I'm really looking forward to, and I can't wait. The only issue that I have is that my wife bought Savannah Banana tickets for Saturday night, which is awesome because, like, obviously I want to go see Savannah Bananas. But if I had known, then we would have tried to get it for Friday night so that I could watch football all day. So I'm going to be definitely pulling these things up on my phone while I'm watching the game. At least they have a nice 2-hour time limit, the Savannah Bananas, not like a normal MLB game. So should be fun. Camera or my phone in front of me. It's not because I'm taking pictures. It's because I'm watching football. So
Of
I might
course.
get hit a little bit, but gotta do it.
Hey, look, you mentioned it a little bit. Week 0 was like the appetizer, but now we get the full meal. And what a
Great way to
meal we
put it.
get, right? Right to start off week 1. Chris, I'm gonna let you introduce it, but we got some bangers, guys. I am so excited for this week 1. I can't really remember a year where just right off the rip, we had playoff caliber matchups. This isn't like your typical cupcake matchups, right? We're getting legitimate matchups right away to start the season, and I'm here for it. Look, we all had a lot to say, I think, about realignment and this new era of college football, but I think where we're at, like, if this is what we get, hey, I'm here for it. As a fan
I'm
of
all about it. Yeah.
football, yeah, hell yeah.
This is what we like, man. We come for the big games, and they're starting right off the gates with some big games. So I'm excited about it. So the way we handled this, we're gonna break down the top 10 on the AP poll and just go over the games that they're having. So a couple of these teams are, like Penn State has a cakewalk game, and Georgia, and a couple of these teams that we're gonna go over have some of the normal week 1 games, but a couple of these matchups are pretty sick. So as you can see, it says here the top AP top 25, but I only have the top 20 because it fit better on the screen. So you get what you get. Shout out to the people listening on Spotify or wherever else you hear audio because you have no idea what I'm talking about. But just as a quick reminder, here's a little glance at the top 10 and the top 20. And we're going to be going over these teams here on the left side of the screen. So we're going to start off hot because we're going to go in order. And number 1, Texas is playing number 3, Ohio State this week, which is the game we've been previewing and alluding to a lot over the last few weeks, months. Looking forward to big noon kickoff. These guys are going to be leading the charge for week 1. All-star lineup here. Fireworks off the bat, hopefully. So what we did for this one, we wanted to give a little callback to our tier belt. So as you can see, we're going to be highlighting some of the Devy relevant players in these games and where we had them on tiers, or in some cases they weren't in our tiers because our tiers were only top 10s. So we added a belt to them so we could discuss them a little bit. And naturally we had some differences in where we thought that they should be, but this is kind of our consensus values. So we know Texas, right? Arch Manning's the big storyline. He's finally going to get a chance to take the reins as the starting quarterback of Texas, long awaited after Quinn Ewers is now in Miami. And Arch is hopefully going to shine. I'm excited for this game. I had mentioned yesterday we did a guest spot with our friends at the Dynasty Gambit talking about just general Devy strategies and things like that. And we also did a quick week 1 preview. This game I think should be fun. I'm excited. I think I would be hammering Texas if it was in Texas, but it's going to be in Columbus. And what I ultimately ended
Yeah.
up was taking a parlay of Texas to win the first half, going to halftime with a lead, and then Ohio State to have the money line at the end of the game. I'm not smart. This is not a betting podcast. Do not do the things that I do. But
Don't take our advice for betting. Please don't.
that is kind of how I feel the game's going to go. I think it's going to be pretty tight. You still have the
Yeah.
best offensive player in football on the Ohio State side and the best defensive player in college football on the defensive side of the ball for Ohio State. So really it comes down to, for me, Julian Sayin, what's going to happen with him. But let's start with Texas because they're on the screen. So, Arch Manning, we've talked about him at length. If you're listening to this podcast, have any idea of any sort of Devy players, you know that he's at the top of the board for a lot of people and for good reason. He's got the legacy bloodlines, and we're looking to see him ball out a little bit. Ryan Wingo is coming in as a blue belt. We discussed him on our very first episode under wide receivers. What do you think about Ryan Wingo in this game coming up, Dustin?
Man, I'm glad you asked me about this, Chris, because I love Ryan Wingo. I think that everything that Coach Sarkisian has been building towards since he became the head coach has been culminating into this moment. And he's actually talked about that specifically with adding these weapons like Ryan Wingo, who I believe is going to immediately profile as Arch Manning's number one wide receiver. You look back to the limited sample that we got with him last year, and it was instant chemistry. Like you could just see it on the field. They kind of used him in some gadgety roles, but you could definitely see like the vertical threat that he possessed. And if you know anything about Coach Sarkisian, he's one of, if not the best play caller in all of college football. I truly believe that, going back to his days at USC. Um, so how do I feel about Ryan Wingo? I think he's a smash. I think he's a smash for Devy. I think he's a sneaky play in CFF. I think you could get him very cheap in those drafts because people are just looking at that production last year and they're not really projecting, I think, appropriately to how he's going to be used. Looking at by all accounts and reports on 247, from what I've seen, Ryan Wingo has had a tremendous fall camp. So I think projecting him forward, it's going to be magic on the field, man. I mean, if Arch Manning is even half of what we expect and anticipate, you want that weapon. You're going to want that weapon on your Devy rosters, and I just believe in him as a prospect. Him coming out of high school, I was very, very high on, and I've talked about it ad nauseum. You can get him cheaper in those drafts now. Get him now because I believe his price will raise drastically. In this game, though, it's going to be tough, man. Like you talked about Caleb Downs on the other side. Ohio State has a really, really good defense to go along with that offense. I mean, how often do you get the number one AP poll team right off the rip versus number three? So that's going to be the matchup that I'm really watching, is that those defensive backs for Ohio State. How are they going to match up with the speed that Texas possesses on the outside? Because it's not just Ryan Wingo. They got Morris on the outside. They got some good tantalizing freshmen too that I think are going to get a little bit of burn this season. So I mean, Texas is all about speed. They've always recruited speed at that wide receiver position. Last year, obviously, Isaiah Bond. You had Matthew Golden, Xavier Worthy before that. They just know how to recruit these athletes. So I am really excited to see that matchup specifically on the outside. One thing, though, a little
Absolutely.
nugget with Ohio State, they got a new offensive coordinator and a new defensive coordinator. So, I mean, we'll see how that plays, if that's a factor in this game, Chris.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's a bit of a new coaching staff over there. They've been around, but they've been elevated. So we'll see how that plays out. And yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Kalik Lockett, Jamie French, Michael Terry III. There's a lot of good receivers in that room for Arch to throw to. And then in the backfield, of course, we have CJ Baxter, who we highlighted in our second episode on our running back tiers, coming in as a yellow belt, which means that he's very promising, but hasn't quite had a full workload in front of him yet. So we're looking forward to seeing what he can do. I really like this guy. The questions, as we've discussed before, are more about his health and his ability to stay healthy. We never want to knock guys for that, but that really is the biggest question mark that he's facing this season, because he's got a lot of opportunity in front of him to really take the reins in that backfield. And he's a really talented athlete. He's a great running back. He's exactly what the NFL is going to be looking for. He's got the nice 218-pound frame. He could run really well through the tackles. He's got that long speed to get the burst once he breaks through. he's a really natural pass catcher in the backfield as well. So I think he could really elevate himself in Devy. And, he's usually a guy who's pretty highly priced already as it is. But in this world that we live in right now with the fluctuation where there's not too many clear top end talents at running back, he has a chance to stand out this season and make himself a higher end Devy asset at the running back position.
Yeah, and Coach Sarkisian actually just mentioned this. Like, he's so impressed with his rehab and where he's at this stage. He said, "Hey, look, I planned to hold him back and be a little cautious with things, right? But he's so far ahead in his recovery already that he's going to get more play and more time right off the rip." Which, I mean, that's exciting. I tweeted about this. If we have a fully and truly healthy CJ Baxter, that's scary. He could light the college football world on fire. And then you still have a guy that we didn't even mention in Trey Wisner, who did an excellent job in
Absolutely.
taking over for him once he went down. So I mean, you got a two-headed monster in the backfield with all that speed on the outside. Like, Texas just has so many weapons. But on the opposite side, talking about Ohio State, they're probably the one team that could go pound for pound with them if you do the tail of the tape for their offensive starters out there. Obviously, you got Jeremiah Smith, who you highlighted. You got Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, Quincy Porter, like all those guys that could contribute. And then that's not even mentioning James Peoples, CJ Donaldson, people like that. So I think that's a team that could go head for head. And I do find it funny, like the parallels between these two teams, because it's again two first-year starters at the quarterback position, guys that have this pedigree, the recruitment pedigree, two big-time five-star guys. But we haven't really seen it yet at this level. So a lot of the same question marks, a lot of the same strengths too. Very evenly matched team, and I would not be surprised if this is the only matchup that we see between them this season. This could be very much so a
We already saw him
preview,
last year in the playoffs.
right? Yeah, and let's talk about that rematch, that game specifically last year. Ohio State roughed up Texas pretty bad. Now, again, that was Jim Knowles calling the defense, so we got to see how they call it. Who's the defensive
Different
coordinator?
quarterback
Matt
too. Yeah.
Patricia. Matt Patricia. Yeah,
Right.
of
Yeah.
course, different quarterback. But Arch Manning did get some run in that game last year. They tried to get him some designed runs, I believe, and Ohio State was roughing him up. Like, Ohio State came to play that game. They were not effing around at all. You go back to how Texas was even playing Ohio State. Jade Barron and them, they were really bracketing Jeremiah Smith. They were like anybody but Jeremiah Smith. I think Jeremiah Smith was held to one catch and 3 yards, but that opened up Carnell Tate,
Right.
who
Exactly.
had a career game. But Jeremiah Smith, just being the dog that he is, was like, I'm pissed off about that performance last season. Like, one catch, 3 yards. I'm coming for some heads this season. So
Absolutely.
against
Yeah.
them, I love it. Love it.
Yeah, and that's a great way to lead into our Ohio State highlights here. So, of course, Jeremiah Smith, no need to pine on about him. We've talked about him ad nauseum before. Black belt, the greatest player in college football on the offensive side of the ball right now, as close to a smash as you can get of a Devy asset. In the Devy Gambit show that we did, that I don't believe has dropped yet, but will be dropping soon. We talked a little bit about his value in a combined startup. So he's going pretty high. You took him at 212 in a combined startup recently. We did a combined startup with our friends from the Devy Planet, and he went 102, which I'm not advocating for. Check out the Dynasty Gambit show that we did in order to see our full breakdowns. And you highlighted Carnell Tate too. I had him as a purple belt in our wide receiver tiers because he has proven it. So I see him as one of those guys with elite upside who could potentially move up to a black belt. But I think he's going to be one of the better prospects wide receivers coming out. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do this year. The big question for them both, right, is Julian Sayin. We had an entire episode where we broke down fall camp, and he was immersed in a little bit of a quarterback battle of his own. And that's the reason that I felt like Texas might come out of this game a little bit hotter, and maybe halftime adjustments are going to push the edge over for Ohio State because he's not had a whole offseason to prepare specifically for this game. He's had a bit of a battle in front of him just to be able to take the reins. So we talked about him in our quarterback episode. We've discussed the overall usage of quarterbacks on your Devy rosters. So we are excited for him. He's a white belt because he hasn't yet seen the field. We don't know exactly what to expect from him, but we've discussed his tools. And I think if he has a good game here, he's going to be an instant riser for a lot of savvy Devy players, maybe somebody to keep an eye on. That was one of the questions we got in our Discord, was who might have a big jump after a good week 1 performance. Shout out to our friend Tom. I think Julian could be one of those guys, because if he comes out and shows it against Texas, he's going to have a nice season in front of him, where you're doing that after coming out of a quarterback battle. Everybody's going to say, maybe this guy's got the stuff. He's got that moxie to step in there and really show what he's made of. Defending champion at home against the number 1 team. If they pull out a win, he's going to be a big part of it, I would think.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just from this game alone, we could probably pull several candidates. Just as you were talking right there from Ohio State, one of my sneaky plays for like a potential Devy riser after this week would be James Peoples, the running back there for Ohio State, who
put
have
on this graphic as a white belt. I don't know that he made our tiers originally, because he wasn't in our top 10, but he's definitely one of the guys to watch. He was on the cusp there. He's got a good opportunity in front of him. We've talked about how great the wide receivers are historically coming out of Ohio State, but they've had a lot of great running backs too, and he's the next man up. So we've seen flashes from him, right? And I think he could have a good game in front of him here, maybe a good year in front of him as well. So I love that.
Yeah, I'm projecting a big game for him, just because I think Ohio State is going to play a lot of 10 personnel, put a lot of pressure on those corners to cover everybody. Like, are you truly going to dedicate that much bracketed coverage to Jeremiah Smith? And then we're just going to eat you up in the middle with James Peoples. And Texas lost a little bit of talent to the NFL on that defensive line. So I think he could be a sneaky play there too.
Absolutely. So very excited for that game. I think everybody who likes college football, not even if you're a Devy fan, you're really looking forward to that being the game that kicks off the season for us. Moving on to number 2, Penn State. They do not have a marquee matchup for week 1. They are playing Nevada this week, and they're something like 43-point favorites, I want to say.
Yeah, I mean, look, a cupcake game to kick things off, right? Is that the James Franklin way? Big
It's
game,
pretty
James.
Classic Penn State way for sure.
Yeah, get your wins early. Then we'll find out. We're going to find out later if this team can handle the games that actually matter, because
he likes to get the rankings really high, and we're coming in hot off the bat right now, but he always likes to get us up into the single digits and then break our hearts later in the year against Ohio State or Michigan or someone.
I mean, I think your season starts week 4. I believe it's week 4 whenever you guys play Oregon. That's when your season truly starts right there. I mean, that's going to be a good game. I mean, we're going to talk about Oregon in a little bit, so I won't go too much. But I mean, let's be real. Penn State, if they're going to win a national championship, this is the year to do it. And the reason why I say that is because in the Big Ten, in the SEC, in these power conferences, like with all these super teams, all these true contenders, we have a lot of questions at quarterback, or we have a lot of inexperience at the quarterback position. And Penn State doesn't have that. I think they have the most, I off the top of my head, I would say the most experienced quarterback in the Big Ten right now, in Drew Aller. So this is the year. I think obviously you got the nice 2-headed monster in the backfield. We got Nick Singleton, our black belt there, and Katron Allen as our purple belt. Very surprising. We've talked about that, how they came back, but they're going to smash. And I think they're going to run all over Nevada. Maybe they'll get Quentin Martin Jr. some run, because they'll just go up, by a large margin here against Nevada. But the real question, obviously, on the year is going to be Drew Aller. This is year 3. I've talked about him a lot. I probably come across as a hater, and I'm really not. I just have high expectations for him, and I'm sick of the training wheels that we put on him, because the tools are obvious. He's 6'5", cannon for an arm. He looks the part, but does he have the consistency? I have questions. Can he be the X factor when the game's on his shoulders? And I don't think I'm the only one that's not sold. NFL scouts aren't sold yet. Corey Kynan, perhaps, he reported that he pulled a 3rd-round Blesto grade this summer. And for those of you who don't know, that's a scouting report grade that NFL teams use. Look up Blesto. So right now, for me, he's a blue belt. We got him as a purple belt right now. I would probably label him as a blue belt because he has the traits, upside, but we're still waiting for him to prove it against the heavyweights. I don't mind the purple belt.
Yeah, I had him as a purple belt originally, which is why I put him on the graphic as a purple belt. And I've talked about this before. Even when I removed the bias, the biggest thing, as you said, is that we haven't seen him completely let loose. We've talked about the old let Russ cook mentality. We need to let Drew
Yeah,
cook, man. And I
we
think
do.
he has all the tools. I think he's one of the safer bets to make it to the NFL as a quarterback, as a, with a reasonable shot to start and not just as a backup somewhere. So I think when you're looking at a projection for him as a Devy asset, he's one of the better outcomes, range of outcomes, I should say, in the Devy landscape right now. But you're completely correct. I mean, we need to let him completely do his own thing this year at Penn State if we want to see him, lead them to a national title or
I think a lot of my hesitation, a lot of my criticism for Drew Allard comes from James Franklin. Honestly, I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to coaching. You like we were all excited when he went to Penn State. Like, you guys just don't get 5-star quarterback recruits like that. And just the pacification that we've done to him. Like, this is a big arm guy. Let him throw it down the field. There's no reason that in a playoff game, when they're stuffing the run and like daring you to throw the football, that you're throwing for 5.5 yards per pass attempt. Like, that is
absolutely.
just, it's ridiculous. And so yeah, I probably come across as a hater, but I'm just, and for whatever reason, he gets a pass by a lot of people in the industry. They're just like, oh yeah, whatever. They got these
Because
running
of those
backs. No,
projectable tools for the NFL, I think is the ultimate thing. But you're completely correct,
yeah,
because those are the same criticisms I had about JJ McCarthy coming out. If he's really that talented, why didn't they use him that way? And it's the
right.
same scenario. They love the running game in Michigan. They love the running game at Penn State. And when you have two very talented guys that are going to make it to the NFL, like Katron and Nicholas, of course you want to use them as much as you can. But this year they brought back almost all their offensive line starters, and they added a
Yeah.
bunch of guys in the transfer portal for him to throw to. So even though he's lacking a Tyler Warren, he's got very good tight ends in the room there with him, and he's got all these veterans that have transferred from other schools to pass to this year. So if they want to make it further than they have so far under the Franklin era, they absolutely need to let him rip. And signs are pointing to that being the case. And I'm not sure that we're going to get too many answers here because it's Nevada and they're 40 something point favorites. So
Right. Yeah.
we'll have to wait again. Yeah.
Week one, if he's dunking on those dudes, it's not going to really do much for my projection for him going forward. But I just think, Chris, and I'll close with this. I think that in the modern college football landscape, it's becoming increasingly more like the NFL, to where you have to have that difference maker in order to propel yourself to a national championship. I truly believe. Well, I mean, last year obviously we didn't have that guy, but we had tremendous talent on the outside. I think that in order to win these close games, you're going to have a quarterback that can push you over the top. You have to have that guy that's going to be able to propel your team and lift everybody higher. And you can't have that excuse of, well, he doesn't have weapons. But unfortunately, these quarterbacks, they're held to a higher standard. And you just have to, you're either him or you're no one.
We've
That's
seen receivers make it to the NFL basically on the backs of the guy that had been thrown to them, padding their stats. So
yeah,
we need that to happen out of Drew Aller this year. And then at the bottom there, we had Katron Allen as a purple belt. That's because he has proven it, and we know that he has a certain level of talent, but that doesn't necessarily reflect the overall upside, because I think what we see out of him, both of us really, and a lot of people in the Devy industry, is that he will have a place in an NFL backfield. It just might not be
yes,
as a full time, lead back role. He's going to be more of the thunder in a thunder and lightning situation, which is great. He's an awesome running back to watch. He craves contact. He's a thumper, but he's done that for over 1,000 yards. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's an asset that you really need to have. I do feel like he's a little bit undervalued though in some of those
he
mid
is.
rounds when people are trying to shoot for that upside and take some freshman quarterbacks or whatever, freshman anything, trying to project long term. He's always right there waiting for you if you want a little bit of a safety pick. So
He really is, and I love his vision. Like, we talk about him being a plotter, but I think he has better vision than Nick Singleton, straight up. I
yeah,
really do. Like, he pops. He's a perfect complementary back. I could be wrong, but I'm not really the biggest analytical guy. But I believe his analytical profile isn't the best. I
yeah, I think exactly the
definitely
backfield you see right now at Penn State is what you can expect out of him. Obviously not 1,000 yard rushing, but you can expect that kind of role for him in an NFL rotation. So he's done it. He's proven it for us, which is why he's ranked as a purple belt. But the upside's not there like other people that might be in a purple belt or a black belt for us.
right, because he's an NFL guy. We know he's going to make it to the NFL, and he's going to be
Absolutely, yeah.
a contributor to an NFL team, and he might even be a high profile handcuff or maybe like an RB2, RB3 on your dynasty rosters.
Absolutely. Moving on. the next game we want to highlight is going to be my favorite game of the week. I'm very excited
Yes.
to watch this / catch highlights from this, or watch it on my phone from a Savannah Bananas game. We have number
I can't
4
believe you.
Clemson versus number 9 LSU. Should be a great game. LSU's going to Clemson for this one, and we have two of our favorite Heisman candidates matching up against each other in Cade Klubnik and Garrett Nussmeier. So this game gonna have a lot to be excited about. This is the game that I'm most looking forward to this week for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, two who we project to be two of the top quarterbacks in the 2026 NFL draft class facing off against each other in week 1. I mean, this is Tiger versus Tiger, right? Going into Death Valley at night. Like, it doesn't get much better than that. This feels like a big game. And it is a big game. Let's be real. Brian Kelly, I think this is a must-win game for him. When you go back to the last 2 seasons, I think even further than that, where they lose the opening the opening game, right? Last year they lost to USC, which was just so funny. Um, but Clemson, I think they're going into the season ranked number 4, and for the first time in a while, I feel like the offense actually has some pop to it. I think Dabo, to his credit, he's stuck to his way of building through recruiting instead of through the portal. And I feel like it's paid off. Obviously, look at the 2 wide receivers that we have. Two guys, just 2 studlies there, and Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore. They both flashed last year as true freshmen. And now obviously you got Antonio Williams, who, when healthy, that's like the best wide receiver trio in the country. I think Clemson finally has like the dudes that they need to be a top tier championship contending program. And I think last year ended obviously with that playoff loss to Texas, but I would argue that that was the best version of Cade Klubnik that we've ever seen play. And I think, like I've talked about a lot with Cade Klubnik, what I really love about his tape is that he's progressed every single season. Go figure. Like, he stays in school, another year developed, and he gets better. He's got accuracy, poise, command of this offense. 3rd year in the Garrett Riley offense. Now he's got those weapons to really show it. The question is, can he take that next step from being a good starter to the kind of guy who would actually win you a playoff game? The kind of guy who could potentially be a number 1 overall draft pick in the 2026 NFL draft. But I think Klubnik isn't just underrated, like, as far in terms of a passer and a gamer. His legs, man. Like, I've talked about it. He's not like a run first quarterback, but he's dangerous when he takes off. Just look at last year in a game against Pitt. He had a essentially the game-winning 50-yard rushing touchdown. He's got moments where he can be a weapon as a runner, that sneaky upside that just doesn't get brought up enough, man. I will say it till I'm blue in the face. Cade Klubnik is a very underrated rusher. And of course, that's going to translate to a lot of points on your dynasty roster. I comp him to Bo Nix a lot, not in terms of play style, but simply in terms of like how the community values him. I could bring this up to any server, any Discord server, anybody out there. Talk about Cade Klubnik. There's always going to be some person out there that will just be like, Cade Klubnik sucks. I don't care. I could bring all the facts in the world and just be like, Cade Klubnik sucks, brother. I
Yeah,
watched
I've
him. The
mentioned having
ACC's trash.
Quinn Ewers anxiety from Cade Klubnik before, but I've come around on him a little bit more as the offseason has progressed. And he's definitely, like I said, these are 2 real Heisman candidates. And he's one of the guys that's been getting the most buzz for potential number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft coming up. So what a great way to start the season is to have these 2 in a showdown, hopefully a nice explosive gunslinging, back and forth match.
Yeah, and I haven't even talked about my guy yet, Garrett Nussmeier. Like, these are 2 of my guys, so of course I'm going to be tuned into this game. Garrett Nussmeier, like this picture right here in 13, that's outdated. We got to throw that out the window because
That's
I don't
true.
know
I
if
should
y'all
have
heard.
put a little bit of a couple lines on there.
Yeah, which just connect it a little bit and make it 18 because Nuss was given LSU's number 18 jersey, which I don't know if you guys know, but it's a big honor. It's about as big of an honor as it gets in that program. It means that the staff see Garrett Nussmeier as the leader of the team. But here's my hesitation with them this year, Chris, because as we know, They were not a very good running team last year. In fact, they rushed the least amount of any SEC team last year, put a lot of pressure on Garrett Nussmeier to where he had to go out there and win the game. However, they lost 4 out of 5 starters to the NFL last season. Okay, 4 out of those 5 were drafted. So they had a lot of talent.
On the line,
Now, of
yeah.
course, yeah. So, I mean, I do have questions about how they're going to hold up, especially against that Clemson defense. Like, that Clemson defense is no joke. They're probably going to be one of the best in the country this season. So,
There's a reason they're
again,
number 4, yeah.
are they gonna get home and apply that pressure to Garrett Nussmeier? And we know how he is when he gets pressure in his face. It is one of the knocks that we have to put on him is that under pressure he plays much like the comp that I give him, Tony Romo. Like he's gonna throw it in there, and sometimes he'll make a miraculous throw, and other times he's gonna throw a boneheaded interception to lose the game. So that is my concern. Additionally, obviously, we have Caden Durham up there and Harlan Berry, 2 very talented running backs. Make no mistake, LSU needs to run the football in order to win this game and to make it to the playoffs and ultimately reach all their goals. If we want Garrett Nussmeier to be a high-end draft pick, then we have to have more balance on the
Yeah, it
offensive
can't
side of the
all be on
football.
his shoulders
No.
by no means. And I know there's a lot of positive buzz specifically around Durham coming out of LSU right now from the beat writers and things like that. Excited to see him be the next lead dog in that backfield. And we've highlighted Harlan Berry in our Freshman Fever episode as a potential electric backfield running mate for him. So we think that Durham's probably going to shoulder most of the load, but what a great way to spell him is to put Harlan Berry in there for a few series here and there and let him show off his electric stuff. So this backfield, as long as you're saying, the offensive line is prepared for it, it's going to be a fun one to watch this year.
Yeah, and I mean, we just have to see it with the offensive line. I mean, it's a big time program. I'm sure they got high end recruits. I don't scout the offensive line for these guys. I mean, I look at some PFF metrics, but I'm not really scouting them like that. I'm just assuming, like, as a top tier program, I'm pretty sure they got some dudes ready to play. But it is going to be a question just because that offensive line was really good. Obviously, it was a lot of NFL talent on the line. So that's just the big question mark. But obviously, I love Caden Durham. That's my most owned Devy asset. I think he's just an incredible talent, and I can't wait to see him get to the NFL. He's a little bowling ball, man, with some rockets strapped to it, man. These
Absolutely.
thick thighs. That's my type of guy, and he's a really good pass catcher out of the backfield. I think he could be a problem for Clemson if they utilize him correctly. So watch for
Yeah,
him to
I've
have a
talked
big
about
game.
him reminding me a lot of Doug Martin. I just love the
That's a
muscle
good comp.
hamster comp, and
Yeah,
just his effortless, smooth running style. I mean, he's
yeah,
exciting, man. So let's
I
hope that
love
they
that
can open
comp.
up some holes for him this year. And I'm excited to see this matchup for sure. I can't wait for this game. This is, I mean, we've been talking all offseason about Texas versus Ohio State, but this is right up there with them, So can't wait, man.
Especially at night, Death
And I
Valley.
know that's gonna
That's
be a Tiger versus Tiger.
right. Just the aesthetics of it, like the night game, the crowd getting into it.
Yeah.
That's what makes college football great. And
And
it's
that's one of the
back.
best atmospheres in college football too. So it'll
Yes.
be electric there for that game for sure. The note that I had was that I had heard that LSU was putting Clemson logos on all of their pads and their bags and their
Mm.
weights and things, trying to really amp up psychologically to take it to them, going into
Yeah.
Death Valley and try to come out with that win. So we'll see what Kelly's got hooked up, up his sleeve, but should be a fun game regardless. Talk about Georgia, number 5. So Georgia has another one of those cakewalk games. They're playing Marshall, so maybe not quite as cakewalky as Nevada was, but still a game that they're projected to be a clear winner in. And the real storyline here is the team coming off of some national titles recently, and they didn't quite live up to expectations last year. So the goal for them this year is to get back on track, and the preseason number 5 ranking is showing that they're kind of on their way. But they do have a new bunch of new faces there, including Zachariah Branch, as you can see on our tier list here. One of your guys from USC coming over to Georgia. What do you got to say about him?
Yeah, I believe we had a question about him, right? From someone in the Discord. Do we have that
Yeah,
question?
Santi Chelsea asked us, what does Branch need to show to get back to being a top 10 Devy wide receiver?
Hmm. Well, I mean, as a SC fan, when Zachariah Branch came as a recruit out of high school, we were all over the moon for him. His comp by a lot of this the services there was Tyreek Hill, just because of his shorter kind of compact build with that elite speed. Like you could see the ceiling comp there in Tyreek Hill. Unfortunately, in his time in USC, man, he was more of just like a gadgety return specialist, honestly. And going back to the start of last season, Lincoln Riley challenged him. He said, "Look, he was more of a return guy for us in his freshman season. I need him to get better, essentially at football stuff, like reading coverages in that role." In Lincoln Riley's offense, he asked those slot guys to run a lot of option routes. And if you're going to be a guy that's running an option route, you have to be able to read his own defense. You have to be able to find those holes in the zone and be able to attack him. And just simply, Zachariah Branch just couldn't do that. He just like the processing of it, he couldn't do it. He wasn't a very nuanced route runner. You could tell he was a guy that relied on his athleticism and his speed. And that's why you had guys like Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon truly kind of take over towards the end. And then that's why you saw him transfer. So I mean, what does he have to do to get back in the top 10? Well, he needs to develop a lot as a route runner. And I mean, thankfully for him, he should kind of project as like one of the top target earners in this offense. The concern, though, is, I mean, historically, Georgia just doesn't put out very good wide receivers, at least ones that are productive in college. Somebody will have to fact check me on this because I'm just going off the dome here. I believe it's been since like 2002 since Georgia's had 1,000-yard receiver. Again, fact check me on that because I could be wrong. I know it's been a long time, though. It's been a very long time. So he has to get better at route running. And then, of course, the question is going to be quarterback play. And I have a lot of questions about this quarterback. And, of course, we know Gunnar Stockton came in for them. He helped him win that SEC title, I guess. I think he had over 250 yards. PFF graded him as like they gave him a 56 grade as a passer. So I do just have my concerns about him as a passer. And I don't see it for Zachariah Branch. I'm sorry. A lot has to happen for him in order to regain that stock. I think he's getting a lot of buzz right now. And for me, if I'm holding on to Zachariah Branch, I'm using that buzz and I'm trying to flip him for something. I'll tear down to a different Devy asset. I saw a lot of Zachariah Branch. I have a lot of Zachariah Branch still, but people know how I feel about him, so they won't take him from me.
Right.
All the talent in the world, like he really could. I just don't see it as a wide receiver. I think if he makes it to the NFL, he's going to be a gadgety return specialist guy. I just don't know if that's any value for your dynasty rosters. But of course, I could have egg on my face at the end of the season, and perhaps he does get to that point. But it will take a lot to get to that point, in my opinion.
Yeah, and obviously Carson Beck is gone. We'll talk about him here in a little bit. So there's a lot of question marks about how exactly the offense is going to move this year with Gunner. And Taylor was a guy we talked about in our freshman fever episode. We have him highlighted here as a white belt, freshman coming in. But I'm hearing a lot of good buzz. You've heard some good buzz, which is why we highlighted him. And I believe that he's not going to redshirt. I think that they're going to have a place for him in this wide
Yeah, they
receiver
got to roll.
rotation this year. So he's going to have an opportunity to really shine and maybe become the best Devy asset to own on this team right now, despite all the things that you said about them not having a 1,000-yard receiver in a while.
Yeah, there's a lot of projection here. He's one of my flag point freshmen. I'm in love with his profile. I love how he plays. He looks a lot bigger than he actually is listed. We talked about that in the freshman fever series. Very long arms, very good route runner, especially as such a young kid out there. Like just such nuance to his route running at his age is spectacular to see. Talking with my guy Matty Ice over there, just a great resource for anybody trying to play C2C. He puts out a lot of good stuff in his Substack, so go check him out. Really cheap to subscribe to that Substack. He talked about how he believes, projecting going forward, once Georgia gets that high-end quarterback recruit, Jared Curtis, over there, that offense is really going to change, and they're going to be more of a downfield threat. I mean, we have to see that as well, but I'm just so excited about him, man. You could just see the plan that they have going forward. So we'll see. We'll see, though. It's still a Georgia wide receiver.
Yeah.
Still
And then we
a lot
highlighted, of course, Nate Frazier, who's one of the better running backs to own in Devy at this point. Very nice combination of speed and power. We've talked before. He was Nick Saban's #1 running back in his recruiting cycle. He's got 10,500 meter speed and he just runs hard, man. So he's an
He's
exciting,
fun.
great SEC running back. Very classic, and they've had a long history of having good running backs coming out of Georgia. So I
Yeah,
think because of all the reasons we just highlighted, he's going to have a big year for them to compete, in the SEC. So we're looking forward to seeing another nice year out of him this season.
for sure. I have him and Caden Durham right there. As far as like Devy assets.
And another guy that I have very close
Hmm.
is Mekhi Hughes, who I'm very excited about.
Oh,
We had to get a picture of him in his Tulane jersey here, but transferring over to Oregon, number 7, playing against Montana State this week. So the big story out of Oregon is it's Dante Moore, right? And I kind of had that little meme joke there on our tiers where I'm officially a fade on Dante Moore. I didn't like what we had seen out of him at UCLA, and I know there was a lot of storylines and things there. But as I've noted before, that whenever he was benched and the backup came in, the backup did much better. So a lot of the same situations that Dante wasn't succeeding in, they were having some success after they finally let him ride the pine. But I know that he had originally committed to Oregon and now he's there. It almost feels like it was a natural fit for a good transfer. And they're definitely excited about him, especially after all the buzz. I've heard people call him a dark horse Heisman candidate. They've had Heisman candidates in Oregon the last couple years. I'm not nearly nearly close to there, but there's no reason to not think that he could at least be adequate for them. But the big guy for me is Mekhi Hughes. I'm looking forward to seeing him. He was absolutely dominant at Tulane, and he's one of my favorite transfers to look out for here in the upcoming 2025 season. He's got an opportunity in front of him to really take charge of that backfield and make a name for himself. A lot of buzz around him just because he is one of the more high-profile transfers. But Oregon, I think, is going to have to use him a lot, especially with Dante being so inexperienced as a starter in general. And they're going to be going up against a lot of these Big Ten defenses this year, which means that you have to keep them honest by running the ball.
yeah, and that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to run the ball. And Mekhi Hughes, we've talked about Mekhi Hughes a lot. He's like the perfect Big Ten running back, just a big bruiser, man. And what a good call by him to transfer up. I again, I talked about this on the episode that I did on Fantasy Football Power Hour with Andy. You know, in this current era that we're in, running backs, these 3-star guys that go to smaller programs, get a lot of playing time right off the rip, they're able to transfer up, make more money, elevate their draft stock, and then make it to the NFL. And in their current landscape and how the NFL treats these guys, we know that they're not going to prioritize them in terms of like monetary value, right? They're not paying these guys a lot. So it makes sense for these guys to stay in school, collect that money, elevate the draft stock. It's like the formula that they've set out now. So I just love this for him. I think he's going to be a big riser for the draft. I think he has the talent to be a day 2 guy, like an early day 2, second round type. I wouldn't be shocked if he goes day 3 just because how the NFL treats these guys. But I think he has a lot of value potentially for future play in your dynasty rosters, especially obviously in C2C. Like he's a smash, right? He's going to score you some fantasy points. You hit a lot of the good things on Dante Moore. We've talked about him a lot in this podcast. So I don't want to talk too much about Dante Moore. Um, Other than just, I think he's grown and learned from a lot of the mistakes that plagued him as a true freshman that was starting in a weird Chip Kelly offense that they were employing out there at UCLA. I think the kid just lost his confidence. He had 3 straight games of a pick 6. You could just see it all over his face. He had developed bad habits. I think taking this time to sit and watch Dylan Gabriel absorb the offense, this Will Stein offense, and now take it. We know it's his team, right? There was no real controversy. By all accounts, he looks good in camp. He's got a good connection with that freshman phenom, DeCorian Moore. It's the Moore to Moore connection out there in Eugene, Oregon. So excited to see that because obviously we love DeCorian Moore. I was a little sad, like as a guy who had drafted him as a high schooler, I was a little sad that he didn't go to LSU when he flipped kind of that last minute and went to Oregon, but it made sense. And he's got a lot of opportunity in front of him. The trajectory that he's on, like currently in terms of like opportunity, it does mirror what we saw with Ryan Williams and what we saw with Jeremiah Smith last season. I don't know if he's going to have the same level of production and same level of impact, but you can definitely see the path right there, right? Evan Stewart's out. DeCorian Morris slots right in as the number one target earner in this offense right off the rip. So exciting stuff for him. He's got to go out there and do it though. But I mean, in this game, who are they playing week 1? Montana State.
Montana State, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
hopefully he comes out hot out of the gates.
I
And,
would love
that
that.
was the other big storyline, of course, the offseason was Evan Stewart going down for the year, which is very unfortunate because he was a higher end Devy asset too. But that opens a lot of doors for DeCorian. So he's
Yes.
got a chance. I'm hoping that they developed a nice rapport in fall camp. By all reports, everything's looking pretty good. So, like you said, he could be the top target earner there in Oregon this season. And when you're playing a game that's, a borderline scrimmage in week 1, you want to make sure that he has a nice explosive game, and hopefully he can rise up the ranks a little bit as well. But yeah, you highlighted. I mean, I love Mekhi Hughes. He's just a missed tackle machine. He's a yak machine. 129 missed tackles missed tackles forced the last 2 seasons. So the
That's a
question, of
good
course,
stat.
is, yeah, we just want to see it translate, against these Big Ten defenses and playing at a higher level. So I'm looking forward to him. I would say too, yeah, day 2 guy, maybe like a round 3 projection is where I have him
Mhm.
right now. I like him as one of the, we've talked about this running back class that we like a lot more than other people.
We
I think
do.
he's going
And
to
I
have a
like
great
it
opportunity.
the more we talk about it, Chris. I don't know why this class gets pooped on so much, man.
I
Like
know, yeah,
I don't get it. Like I don't know. We'll see. We could be wrong, but there's a lot to like about
we
them.
could
But
be, but let's
there's
see a
an there's
bunch of nice
another
stats this week. Yeah,
right. Let's I'm gonna move on to the next game, Chris. This is
absolutely.
one I covered. It's another big time game, man. We got Notre
I had to put
Dame,
the
the
new
sixth.
logo up there.
Love it. Oh yeah, with the football.
Yeah,
I don't know how do you
the
feel
new
about
Notre
the
Dame.
logo, man?
I like the
How do you
logo a lot, honestly. I think it's a perfect
I mean,
rebrand. It's not like Cracker Barrel. This is a great way to
right.
rebrand it.
It's not like Cracker just plain. I mean, at least it makes sense, right? Like he's carrying a football. It's football
Yeah,
focused. I do think it's kind of cool that every single like sports team for Notre Dame has their own signature logo, right? Like they're
that
all
is cool.
different.
Yeah,
It is kind of cool, but man, it's the fighting Irish, man. Put them up. Like we're fighting, man. I don't know.
I never
It's
really liked
cool.
that logo.
No.
It's too wide. Like, yeah, I like this one.
All right.
He looks like
All
a
right.
short, compact Caden Durham style runner. Just
Hey, you had me
pound
at kicking
the
Durham.
rock. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. So talking about this game though, getting back on track because it's another game that features two top 10 teams. And don't get it twisted. This game is all about the quarterback contrast. Notre Dame, they're rolling with the redshirt freshman CJ Carr, who we know just barely edged out Kenny Minchey in camp. Now, there's rumors circulating, right? There's whispers out there that Notre Dame probably knew that CJ Carr was the guy for a while, but that they held off on announcing it. Maybe just to keep Miami guessing, to kind of get that little bit of edge. Or maybe it's just because Menchie's just that good too. I think either way, it doesn't really matter because we know that it's CJ Carr's show now. And I think, going from CJ Carr or going from Riley Leonard now to CJ Carr is a big shift because you're not going to see the quarterback running and putting up nearly 1,000 rushing yards. Carr's a true pocket passer. He's talented, right? We know that, but he's still unproven. He's another one of these guys that's just hasn't done it yet. So that's why he's a white belt for me right now, as you can see on the screen there. Now, the good news for Carr is he's got like a legit dude in the backfield. Of course, I'm talking about our black belt there on the screen, Jeremiyah Love. He's back. He's already in the Doak Walker conversation. He's got speed, versatility, right? He could do it all. He could do
Hurdling guys,
everything.
as you can see on that
Yeah.
picture there.
He is so much fun to watch. So much fun to watch. Um, Obviously, he's one of the most Devy relevant running backs in the country. I think he could potentially be one of those running backs that is taken in the first round of the NFL draft if all goes according to plan. He's a black belt for a reason for me. And
Yeah,
at
him and
wideout,
Singleton are the two that I think have a chance to be round 1 running backs coming out of the end of this season. And we've debated them back and forth before, but right
mhm,
now Jeremiah Love seems like the real deal complete package. I really like his pass catching upside. I love what he's doing on the ground. He's a phenomenal player, and he's going to have a definite shot to be the number 1 running back taken in the NFL draft.
yeah, and a great offensive line too. Just like Penn State there. He's got everything going for him to have a big season. Of course, it's just durability is always going to be the question that we have with him. Can he handle an increased workload? What is it going to look like? Is he going to split some touches with Prince there, who's another talented back. I mean, Notre Dame has a really talented running back room there. So are they gonna, make it more of a tandem there? What are we gonna do? Because we're losing a lot of rushing yards there without Riley Leonard there. I mean, that's nearly 1,000 yards right there that you're missing. So that's got to come from somewhere else, I believe. So we'll see. Maybe he gets an increased workload, but I would hesitate to do that because I don't think he's a guy that you want to be giving 20 plus touches to a game. I just don't. You want to maximize his efficiency and his impact on the field. You get those big splash plays like playing Indiana in the college football playoffs and going for 99 yards for a touchdown. And you don't want him wore down like he was for Penn State, unfortunately. You know,
Right.
so that's where I'm at with their wideout. Obviously, we got the very talented yellow belt there. I really wanted to put him up to a blue belt, but I'm circling Jaden Greathouse right there because he exploded in that playoff run last year. And I think that this year could be a statement year for him. I think he could truly break out. And that's not something that we say a lot with Notre Dame wide receivers, but with CJ Carr being that true pocket passer, I think the wide receivers should see, or they should be more of like a consistent weapon in this offense compared to last year. Greathouse he's right at the top of the list, a guy who could be one of the big wide receiver risers in Devy this season. And I think for the draft, if he chooses to enter the 2026 NFL draft, he's
Yeah,
got to
we've
keep
talked about
building
him
on what we
before. He's
saw.
one of my favorite in that kind of second chunk of wide receivers for Devy assets,
Yeah.
where the first 10 or so are gone in that like 11 to 20 range. I really like him as a target, in those middle rounds and things like that. I think he's got an awesome opportunity to really elevate himself this year. And we've talked about him before. He's had some great games, and I think he's going to continue to improve on that. Hopefully, CJ Carr can really help him, feed them the ball this year.
Yeah. Talented team. But that other team that they're playing there in Miami, I don't know if we got a slide for them,
We
for
do.
the viewers there. Look, Miami on the other side, and once again, they went shopping in the portal for a quarterback. Look, last year they struck gold with Cam Ward, and they're saying in camp that they think that they struck gold again here in getting Carson Beck. They paid the man a lot of money to come play for him, right? So we got to see it. If Carson Beck is healthy and back to that 2023 form, I think he does give Miami that stability that they're looking for. For now, obviously, for us, he's a blue belt. He's a proven passer. But he's just got to show that he can bounce back and stay on the field. He did have that injury at the end of the year. Uh, he gets a lot of flack for how last year played for Georgia. They still won 10 games. They still won the SEC. I think they led the country in drops. Maybe not led the country, but Georgia had an inordinate amount of drops for them as a program. Like the standard that they've set, it was just they weren't playing like Georgia at times. So there was a lot of things that didn't go Carson Beck's way. By no means am I saying that Carson Beck is not at fault for how that season played out ultimately for them. It just didn't work out. But it could work out here at Miami, or it could blow up in their face. I don't know. But to me, the wide receiver room is intriguing. And the one that I'm excited about and I think has long-term Devy upside is a yellow belt for me in JoJo Trader. Look, people hate him for whatever reason. I don't know why. But for me, I think he's got the frame. He's got the athleticism and some upside, but he's still a little raw, right? So that's why he's a yellow belt right here. He's a fun stash, but don't expect instant production. And of course, I got another high upside play there, another freshman here in Malachi Tony. Now, he was somebody that Boomer Sooner in the comments of one of our videos kind of put me on. He was asking me about him. We had a nice little back and forth in the comments on one of the videos. And I went back and I looked at Malachi Tony, and he's just not the type that I usually like. He's a smaller wideout, but he's been drawing like rave reviews in camp in the spring and in fall, and I cannot discount that. He's got a little bit of that like Zay Flowers type quickness and movement skills. And I think honestly, like by all accounts, it's sounding like he's going to carve out a role right away. So I did want to spotlight him here. I think there's a chance that like he could take a quick little crossing route and just turn it upfield and make a big play. Like he's going to use that natural speed and athleticism of his to make a play. That quickness, little shiftiness. Truly, man, like the little bit that I saw in Huddle, his high school tape, looked a lot like Zay Flowers. So we'll see. We'll
That's a
see.
good comp. I like that. And I've always been higher on Zay Flowers than a lot of other people. I feel bad that he's in an offense that doesn't pass a ton, but
right.
that's a great comp, honestly. I would say just for Miami fans, hold your breath a little bit because I'm not
Yeah.
sure that Carson Beck can do the things that Cam Ward did last year. Cam Ward is a
No.
legitimately good passer, and I know he wasn't a a big time Devy asset. You know, he was available in a lot of depleted Devy drafts here this year. But Carson Beck, I mean, he's proven that he can win, right? I just wouldn't see him as nearly as talented as of a thrower as Cam Ward was. So
And
he's got
just
a
even the
lot of weight on his
intangibles.
shoulders.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off there, Chris, but just even the intangibles, which is something you point out all the time, and I'm talking about Cam Ward there, just the leadership skills that he displayed, that he's already
Absolutely.
displaying for the Tennessee Titans right now, like voted a team captain as a rookie. It's
He's made some
incredible.
great passes in camp too. You can tell why he was taken 1-on-1.
Yeah, and by contrast, though, you talked about him not being a really high-end Devy asset. Carson Beck was at one point. I did a startup last season, at the start of last season, obviously before Jeremiah Smith ever played a game, and I had the number 2 pick in that startup, and Carson Beck went number 1. I got me some free Jeremiah Smith in that startup,
Nice.
and I mean,
Absolutely.
it wasn't that uncommon because they were like, okay, I'm going to take. I mean, people were projecting Carson Beck to be the number 1 overall draft pick in 2025, and of course,
Right.
lo and behold, it was Cam Ward.
He got a lot of
Cam Ward,
money to
baby.
go to Miami though, so I'm sure he's happy. But we'll
Hey,
see. He's got a lot
can't
to
fault the
prove
man.
too. He wants to be in the NFL, right? So
He does.
maybe they can work their magic again.
We'll see. They feel like they struck gold twice, but not so fast because that is a really good defense that he's going to have to play in Notre Dame as well. That's something we didn't even
True.
talk
Yeah.
about.
This is another
A
great
tremendous.
game.
Yep.
And
All
then our
right. Well,
last
one more.
highlight is going to be Alabama coming in at number 8 this year. They're playing Florida State, who is not ranked, but I believe did get a few votes here and there. So they're in that second tier after the polls there. Should be a fun game to watch just because it's 2 classic teams, 2 traditionally great college football teams. The real question is how much pressure is on Kalen DeBoer's shoulders. Obviously, you want to win when you're in Alabama, and it wasn't the best season for them last year.
Yeah, that it is it's a fan base that's been a little spoiled, right? Like they were still in a lot of games. They had a good season. It was a transitional year. You have to expect some of those hiccups. And Jalen Milroe just simply wasn't a Kalen DeBoer guy. I think Ty Simpson kind of profiles a little more as a Kalen DeBoer guy. He wants a guy that's going to be able to stand in the pocket, make the reads, and just deliver the ball. And that's what he's going to get in Ty Simpson, who's a former 5-star himself, who's a guy that I've highlighted as I think is severely underrated in Devy right now. I'm not saying he's the best prospect out there, but he was a 5-star for a reason. He did bide his time, and now he has a really good offense and a really good play caller, a good play designer there in Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb together. That combo has just been special. So I am excited for him to be a riser. We'll see. Like he could be one of those guys that rises. I mean, he's got Ryan Williams right there. Ryan Williams, who I absolutely love. I comp him to Lynn Swan. Just throw the ball up to Ryan Williams and let him go do some acrobatic stuff and, come down with the ball, looking like a ballerina there with his feet tapping in the on the sideline. Let's get that going. But the reason I'm interested in this game, right? Because we're make no mistake. What I'm trying to say is I think Alabama is going to just crush FSU. I really do. Like I have no confidence in them.
Most likely.
But
Yeah.
I'm watching it because Thomas Castellano said nobody's afraid of Alabama without Saban. And holy moly, I think that was a mistake, Chris, because I think he just woke up a defense that I think is the best in college football. I mean, on like all 3 levels of that defense, they got dudes. They got legit like NFL first round talent in all 3 levels. And he pissed them off. Like I think they're going to be coming for his head. So I really just want to see Thomas Castellano's head on a stick after the end of this game. Just, why'd you poke the bear, man?
Yeah,
So
why you
that's
got to
really
give
what
him
I'm looking forward to.
some billboard material there? This
Why?
not a
Why
great
did he do
idea.
that? Yeah, he's like, I'm unstoppable. Like he went off in that interview with Pete Nakos. It was hilarious. But moving on, got to talk about some other guys here. I got Richard Young there, profiled as a white belt, and he's a guy that I'm pretty excited about because the backfield right now is in flux. We know that Jam Miller, he's going to be out for a while, and that opens up the door for a guy like Richard Young. And he's a power back. He can handle goal line work, and like in an offense like this, I want the running back who's going to get the goal line work if I'm playing CFF or C2C. And I think that aside from that, Richard Young really has a lot of Devy upside. He's a big power back, like I said, but he's got He's got those quick feet. Kind of reminds me, like I was telling you pre-show, reminds me a little bit of Jonah Coleman with those feet. And he's a little shiftier than you'd expect. You see the limited sample that he got, put on some exciting stuff. So looking at him, obviously we know the other two wide receivers on the outside, Jeremy Bernard, the new transfer Isaiah Horton. It's going to allow Ryan Williams to be weaponized in the slot. And we've talked about that on a previous episode. Super excited for that. Anytime you can take your best offensive weapon and use them like a chess piece in motions, getting free releases, those strategic kind of matchups, right? I'm all for it. Like, you want those guys to be doing that because that's how these offensive geniuses would use him in the NFL. Using him that right now.
Right. Yeah. And then the other guy that we talked about previously would be Keelan Russell, who, of course, is not going to be the starting quarterback.
Right.
There would seem to have been a bit of a quarterback battle there, but they're going to let him sit out a year and get a red shirt and learn a little bit more before he's thrown into the fire, which might be a good thing. You know, he could develop a little bit more, but he is certainly an asset that a lot of Devy players have heard of and a higher end asset to own at quarterback. So we'll most likely have to wait another year to get a real long look at him. But this is a team that is absolutely talented, especially on defense. As you said, they're coming in at number 2 on 24/7's team talent composite ratings. So they're always talented. They always are going to recruit great players, and they have an opportunity now with Ty Simpson to shut up the haters and make Kalen DeBoer look good and take a little bit of the heat off his seat. I'm not sure how hot the seat really actually
I
is,
don't think it is.
but it's perceived to be a little bit hotter right now, right? It's tough coming off of a guy like Saban, one of the true greats,
Exactly.
So we'll see, but it could be a nice year for Bama, or it could be another disappointing season. But starting off
It's
against
even
Florida
like,
State, probably not going to be a bad taste in their mouth after this week.
yeah, I was just gonna highlight that it's kind of like Georgia last year. The fans were all in a tizzy because they lost 2 games. They still won the damn SEC. Like, that's a
Right.
down season for these guys. And obviously Alabama didn't have quite that level of success. They lost to Vanderbilt. Like, you can't do that. That is unacceptable. So I get why the fans were mad, but it's a transitional year. You gotta allow Kalen DeBoer to get his guys in, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think he's a great coach. But let's go ahead, Chris. We'll move on. I did just want to spotlight some other games quickly before we close this out. Um,
Absolutely.
this episode should come out on Thursday. We're recording on a Wednesday, but here on Thursday, we get a nice little game: Nebraska versus Cincinnati. I'm ready to see how Dylan Raiola looks in year 2. Obviously, with the new offensive coordinator, he had him at the end of last year, but now a full season with this offensive coordinator. You get Dan Key. I'm excited to see what Dylan Raiola looks like.
Yeah, I've talked about him. He's one of my favorite guys to buy low on right now is Raiola. So, like you said, Dane Key's a great asset for him, and they got a couple new offensive linemen for him and a couple new wide receivers for him. So, should be exciting.
Yeah, should be exciting. Friday, we got Auburn versus Baylor. And look, man, don't be sleeping on Baylor to win this game. Straight up, like, I think they might be a sneaky play to. I wouldn't even really call it an upset, but I guess technically it would be an upset. But I'm watching Jackson Arnold, see how he handles this opportunity.
Right.
I'm watching Cam Coleman, my guy, and then Eric Singleton, obviously the new transfer coming in, who apparently he has a thigh injury, but he's going to play through it. But
I
he
didn't
is a
hear
little
that.
banged up. He's not 100% right now. So for Baylor, we're going to be watching the quarterback Sayer Robertson, and obviously Chris's dude, running back Bryson Washington. Those are the Devy relevant guys to be keeping an eye out
Yeah,
for
and I do
in that
like
game.
Michael Trigg too, tight end. Obviously we've
That's a good one.
discussed
Let's spotlight him. Yeah,
before that
talk about him.
tight ends are not great Devy assets to own, but I feel like he maybe gets a little bit misutilized there. But you got to have somebody catching the ball, and I think he's one of the higher upside tight ends, and he could project as a potential NFL talent. So somebody to keep an eye on as you're progressing through the year, and maybe if you're trying to boost up your Devy tight end room a little bit, somebody to watch out for.
Yep. Absolutely. Moving on there on Friday, we do got another game that I'm going to be watching. It's in my backyard. It's Colorado versus Georgia Tech. I believe it's going to be in Boulder. I think this could be a sneaky good game just from a pure football fan perspective. Look, Georgia Tech, I think they've built a really solid program over the last few years. They play hard, and I'm watching Colorado's quarterback, their new transfer, Caden Salter. He came over from Liberty. I'm just ready to see how he performs. Obviously, he's going to be replacing Shedeur Sanders. I kind of want to see how he operates. Let's see how the guy moves. I think he's been getting a lot of steam. My guy SC over at Devy Planet has been talking about.
Is he just like away from the program right now?
Man, I don't know how his health is, man. This is what people always talked about. I do too. He does a lot of good things for that school.
Yeah,
I know he's not really liked.
We wish him the best.
I do too.
You know what I didn't bring up was that apparently Mario Cristobal is coaching from the press box for some stupid reason.
Oh yeah. We didn't talk about that. I had that in my notes too.
Gambit, but I don't know why he's electing to be the first head coach to coach from the press box.
Is that a health thing, or is he just wanting to try something?
Yeah, but I'm hammering Notre Dame in this game, man. I don't understand that. It's a very odd choice.
That's super odd, man.
Somebody in our Discord had mentioned maybe it was maybe he wants to take on more of a defensive play calling role, and that's why he wants to be up there. But still,
not as the head coach, though, man.
Weird. Yeah.
Not as the head coach. Like, if you're a coordinator, sure, I get it.
Right.
Head coach, you want to be able to have a pulse on. I digress. It's weird, and we don't project it to be a good outcome for him. And then on Sunday, another game that I'm looking forward to is Virginia Tech versus South Carolina. We're going to get our first look at Lenora Sellers this year. I do like that Shane Beamer is going to be coaching against Virginia Tech, which of course is where his legendary father coached for so many years and won national championships with. I think it's cool. Like, the team that you grew up watching your father coach, where you got your coaching start in, like, now you're playing him, and it's his first time playing Virginia Tech. So now it's this like full circle moment. Yeah. It's like a cool full circle moment. And he has arguably one of the most explosive and exciting players in Lenora Sellers. I'm watching Lenora Sellers as the Devy relevant guy. And I want to see what wide receiver steps up in that core, because we've talked about this. We're going to need a guy to step up in that room if Sellers wants to be the potential number 1 overall pick in the 2026 NFL draft.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
He's my QB2 in Devy, man. I love him. I'm looking forward to that. Nice little Sunday game before we get NFL action on Sundays.
Yes, sir. Well, that's the top 10. Loaded rosters, star power everywhere, and week 1 matchups that already feel like playoff games. This is how the season starts. We're in for a wild ride, my friend. Biggest question now is, which of these heavyweights stumbles first, and which one plants the flag as the team to beat? Now, if you enjoyed this session, make sure that you're subscribed on YouTube or you're following on your favorite podcast app. And please, I'd be remiss if I did not mention this. You need to join the conversation in the Discord. It's free, and we'll be watching these games live with the community. So from the Sensei and the Shifu, this has been the Devy Dojo. We'll see you next week. Same dojo, bigger matchups.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.